Our next presentation is by Paul Ryznar. He's the creator, founder, president, and CEO of LightGuide. The topic is breakthrough in quality, workforce productivity, and operations with smartAR. Paul is an engineer, inventor, and entrepreneur creating LightGuide. He is the founder and president and CEO of Romex, Michigan-based LightGuide. The technology uses proprietary software and high-powered projection systems to guide and confirm the complexities of complex tasks, from automotive assembly to quality control to training. Prior to LightGuide's invention in 2005, he held senior management roles, including VP of operations positions at Detroit Diesel, Bosch, Energy Conservation or Conversion Devices. He has more than 30 years in manufacturing. I can tell you that the LightGuide system is awesome. I'll give you my editorial comments up front. We have one that we have in our engagement center that we demonstrate to companies and get in front of students so they can see different types of technologies and how technology can be used to enhance the learning and the manufacturing process. And I'm stealing all your thunder, Paul. I'm sorry. I will let Paul switch over. And thank you very much for attending, sir.
Oh, great. Thank you, Steve. And it was great to meet you, by the way, in person at this event in Charlotte. Totally unexpected, but great timing. So Thanks for that great introduction. Yeah, like Steve says, I'm the CEO founder of LightGuide. It's great to be able to present here to the team, and thanks to Purdue for the invitation as well. Also very interesting that not only do we have a great relationship with Purdue that we're continuing to build on, but even with MXD, and a great presentation from Tony there. We're actually the first augmented reality technology that was deployed at MXD in Chicago all the way back in 2015. And it's been a great relationship, partnership with MXD, and everything Tony went through is absolutely correct. It's a great spot for companies to come together, big and small, to be able to deploy and advance digital manufacturing. Just really quick, a little bit about LightGuide. We are truly a world global leader in projected augmented reality. And we now are running in about 36 countries around the world. We've got a great network of some of the top automotive OEM tier 1, tier 2 customers in the world for not just automotive, but we're doing work in medical, aerospace, defense, electronics. And that's one of the great things, quite honestly, about augmented reality is when you're just following lights, whether they're through a projector or other forms of augmented reality, quality improves dramatically, productivity improves dramatically. And quite honestly, it doesn't matter what language you speak. Instead of having pages and pages of technical work instructions on a monitor or on paper, you can really simplify work instructions even for complicated manufacturing processes. So it's great to be seeing LightGuide go across the world now, and also great to be able to let everybody know that we are really interested in working with anybody that's out there struggling with manufacturing problems, looking for a solution, and in many cases, we can help deliver that solution. So if we go to the next slide, it really is interesting what's been happening from the evolutionary side of just manufacturing in general, as we've gone from Industry 1.0 all the way up to Industry 4.0. I mean, manufacturing has always been this great intersection of data and people and other forms of information. But as now technology is starting to play even a bigger role under Industry 4.0, there's a right way to deploy it and there's a wrong way to deploy it. And if you don't deploy it, though, there's going to be a big problem. In fact, the event that Steve and I sat in on Tuesday, they were talking about the difference between some of the top quartile companies from a profitability standpoint and the bottom quartile companies in the U.S. has actually almost doubled as far as the spread in profitability over the last 30 years. So those companies that are smartly deploying smart technologies that can deliver results continue to really accelerate their profitability, whereas those that don't are really continue to get pushed down that profitability scale. So smart deployments of Industry 4.0 is more critical right now than ever before. So if we go to the next slide, and we start to dive a little bit into some of the details around augmented reality in general, It's pretty interesting because there's so many articles about different forms of robots and other forms of automation getting deployed on factory floors. But pretty much as we sit here over the last few years, about 72% of all factory tasks worldwide are still performed by humans. So that we think is going to continue to go down a little bit every year, but still the bottom line is there is a tremendous amount of work that is still going to be done by people in factories around the world. And not just factories, hospitals and other forms of work that's required to be done by people. In fact, some of the most successful companies that came through COVID were the ones that were the most flexible. And you could very quickly pivot into different products and different volumes based on what was happening during the pandemic. And in many cases, people provide a very, very flexible solution in order to be able to react to changing market conditions as compared to having a lot of automation. So at the bottom line here is that we really do need to work differently now, and we need to be able to make sure that our manufacturing operations are as flexible and powerful as possible. So if we go to the next slide, this is really what's been state-of-the-art work instructions for many, many years. Up in the top right here, you've got paper-based work instructions. And on the bottom right, you've got the monitor-based work instructions. There's two big problems with these. Number one, in both cases, if you need to get information, you have to stop working to get that information. And that's all lost productivity. So just as you see in that bottom right picture there, you've got three people up and down a small assembly line, but yet two of them are not building any circuit board or whatever that product is that they've got on the assembly line. They're looking away from the work for information. And there's two huge problems with that. Obviously, they stop working, number one, but then you have to associate what's on the monitor to the actual physical work itself. And so that's a huge quality risk because a lot of cases that association between the monitor and the work is not done correctly. So we find all the time that the closer you can place the work instructions to the actual work itself, ideally right on the work itself, dramatically improves quality. And in many cases, you can drive defect prevention rather than defect detection, which I mean by that is the work instructions now become so visual and intuitive if you can place them on the work itself. And we'll show you a couple of examples of that in a second, that quality goes up dramatically. Productivity also increases dramatically as well. So if we go to the next slide, this is now something we all know from our previous history, right? No longer do we need 5 to 10 maps in our glove compartment to go from point A to point B. The maps are information only, but as GPS has pretty much entirely replaced this form of work instructions, the map in our glove compartment, with what is truly the right information, right place, right time. The defect prevention part of GPS is it's telling you to turn right in 100 yards or turn left in 200 meters. It's trying to make sure no matter where you are around the world, you never make a wrong turn ever again. And that's the value of it. It's not necessarily the value that it tells you after you made a wrong turn that you made a wrong turn, which in manufacturing, cameras, Cognex cameras, and others are telling you after the fact that there was a mistake made. The whole value of augmented reality in manufacturing, when it's applied properly, is to try to make sure from a defect prevention standpoint that you never make a mistake on a manufacturing line ever again, because the work instructions, even at high levels of complexity, are very clear and very precise and very timely. Again, the right information at the right place and the right time. So if we move to the next slide here, this is again, the GPS example, and we all can relate to this, replacing maps with truly the right information, right place, right time. So in many ways, our technology together with other forms of AR can really deliver that same type of a value proposition. So if we go to the next slide, this is a LightGuide at work in a number of different applications. And if you could play the video, maybe by clicking on that picture in the screen there, whoever's driving the presentation, I'd appreciate it, because there are a number of videos here that we can basically show. There we go, thank you. Show a number of situations where in this particular case, complex manual processes, in this case, building a very critical battery bay assembly for an EV customer. becomes as easy as following the lights. So this is step-by-step work instructions to assemble parts in the right location, so that all 3 shifts now are building in a very standardized way. Even something like inspection. Here we've got multiple variations of a door and that need to be inspected on both sides. And those instructions were guiding somebody to do that in a very standardized way. Even something like running a glue path, as you see here, and building a headliner for an automotive vehicle. It's incredible how complex headliners in vehicles have become over the last 20 years with different types of cameras and wires that need to be assembled. A technology like LightGuide can help make that happen. Torquing, in this case, building a laptop, it really becomes super important to make sure it's done correctly, as it always has been, but by following the lights, it can be done very, very accurately. So as you see from a lot of these different videos, whether it's laptops, whether it's doors, whether in this case it's part kitting and sequencing, with in many cases millions of combinations of parts and quantities that need to be kitted in a just-in-time process in a factory to make sure they're properly sequenced. Technologies like LightGuide can help manage, literally millions of combinations of variations. So as you just saw, it's very easy to program. Many of our customers are trained to do authoring of the work instructions. And on an assembly line like this, it can actually drive one-piece flow, as you see here. So this is just a number of different videos of LightGuide at work. And if we go to the next slide, the key takeaway from that is, it really doesn't matter, as we like to say, whether it's pizzas, pacemakers, or powertrains. Augmented reality can really help drive process optimization. And these are the results many of our customers are actually receiving compared to when they were running with paper or monitor-based work instructions. 90% improvement or more in some cases in quality, 50% or more improvements in throughput and productivity, and finally a 30% or more improvement in training effectiveness. So as Rick was mentioning earlier, and Steve, about a physical twin and a digital twin, the digital twin is great, but if it doesn't actually have a physical twin on the factory floor, it breaks down pretty quickly. So technologies like LightGuide can help make sure that if you've modeled in a digital world, an assembly line that needs to meet a certain takt time and quality metric, a physical twin on the factory floor with a technology like LightGuide can truly help make sure that your digital twin has a physical twin on the factory floor. If we go to the next slide, please, we've also got the ability, as you saw in some of those videos, to apply augmented reality across almost any manual process that exists, whether it's assembly and inspection, training, part picking and kitting, maintenance, distributed manufacturing, or even digital work instructions. And, in a factory, if it's deployed correctly, it can really drive dramatic improvements in quality and productivity. When it's applied in a medical sector, it actually becomes even more important because the 3rd leading cause of death in the United States is medical errors. Number 1 and 2 is heart disease and cancer. So in that particular case, a technology like this can't just save time and money, it can actually help save lives to make sure that manual processes can be done correctly. So it really has the ability to go across multiple processes and even multiple industries. If you go to the next slide, please. This is what we call our smart augmented reality work instructions station. This is a standard type solution, although we can adjust this and make it a bit more customized for certain customer applications. But this is a off-the-shelf ergonomic workstation that adjusts up and down for employees that might be smaller, or I should say taller or shorter. And it can drive a wide range of different product and process capabilities on this particular workstation. So happy to go through more details with anybody that's interested. Just send us a note and we can provide you some more information. We've also got a number of videos on our website that shows these type of workstations at work in manufacturing environments. If we move on to the next slide, this is again another video. If you would not mind clicking on it, I'd appreciate it. That shows a little more detail around the ability to guide step-by-step work instructions. One of the key points on this particular one involves the fact that unlike any other work instruction technology that exists today, This actually allows what we would call a layered audit process. In other words, the ability, as we're watching this video together, to be able to see very quickly that the employee is actually doing the work that the work instructions require. So at a glance, you can watch somebody doing work for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, if you're a team leader or a supervisor performing a layered audit on a factory floor, and very quickly see that the employee truly is following the right work instructions. And that layered audit capability with LightGuide is something that customers really value because it's difficult to be able to really understand if the employee is doing the work, if they're working off of monitor or paper work instructions, or even quite honestly, off of a wearable or a tablet. So if we go to the next slide, this is also another interesting one on training, because about 30% of everything we're doing right now is helping manufacturing companies around the world train people. So if we go to the next slide, please, we can show a little bit of an overview of one of our TrainAR workstations at work. And this is actually a system that can self-train employees on every step of the process. You can see that particular one on our website, where it can drive, in many cases, a 6-week return on investment, because it's training people on the very best practices from the very first cycle that they run. And in many cases, you don't need people training people anymore. LightGuide and other forms of AR technologies can train them. We're also hardware and software agnostic. In other words, we want to be able to fit in with a company's current standards on their manufacturing floor. So if you're running dashboards already that allow you to see how your automated processes are running on a worldwide basis, the analytics that the LightGuide can help provide into your overall worldwide process optimization allows you to see now what both your automated processes are doing as well as your manual processes. So it really closes this gap in analytics, so you can see in real time within a factory how are your manual processes performing, and even how your worldwide processes are performing. And you can see on the bottom there some of the different forms of MES systems and dashboarding analytic systems that we've interfaced with over the years. If we go to the next slide, please, this is just a short list of some of our current customers. We've got many, many more than this, and it's really exciting to be working across pretty much every vertical around the world with LightGuide. And then finally, just a couple of quick testimonials, and then we'll open it up to go to the next presenter or question, Steve. This is just one of our key customers, Ford. Very interesting. Like many companies, they are right now in their factories running both internal combustion engine parts as well as EV parts to be able to scale into the electrification in EV market. There's a lot more variation, obviously, there than the old days when you could only order a Model T in black. There is so much variation that technologies need to be deployed to make sure that risk of all that variation is minimized. And very similar customer here, L3 Harris, publicly posting an article here a couple months ago talking about how with LightGuide, they've been able to run for 1 year on a particular application without making one mistake. So these are the type of quality and productivity improvements that customers are realizing with technologies like LightGuide. So that's the last slide. I really do appreciate everybody's time and being able to go through this very quickly. And I'll turn it back over to you, Steve.